A marketing analyst spent 2 weeks avoiding MCP because she was sure it would bulk upload her client files to some cloud she didn't control. MCP doesn't work that way, and this video settles exactly what it really does. MCP is a connection standard, and the confusion about what that actually means is costing people real time, so let's sort it out. Part 1. Does MCP mean copying all your data into external AI platforms? I hear this one constantly. Someone connects an MCP server to their CRM, then panics when they realize they don't know where that data actually went, and it ends up costing people hours of second guessing before they ever run a single query. So let's find out if that fear is actually justified. I went through the official MCP spec, and here's what actually happened. MCP pulls data on request. It doesn't push it wholesale to anyone, and local STDIO servers never touch the network at all. So your data stays on your machine. Remote servers do move data across a network boundary to a third party, so that distinction matters, and the spec requires explicit user consent before any data gets exposed. Myth busted. MCP is a request-response connection. Same idea as calling a waiter over instead of handing them your entire fridge. And that's question 1 answered. Score is on screen. So the real cost of this myth is that people who could be saving hours every week are just sitting on the sideline. I've been deep in these AI tools long enough to hit that exact panic moment myself, and I only figured this out after losing a full afternoon to it. So drop a comment below if the data copying fear ever stopped you from trying MCP. Part 2. Is MCP only for developers, or can a business user actually set it up? One of the biggest problems I run into when using AI agents is turning their output into YouTube content I can actually use to market my product. That's why this video is sponsored by Subscriber, a tool that helps business owners connect their AI agents to YouTube and market their products without spending 10 hours every week creating content. You can connect Claude or ChatGPT directly to Subscriber. It then analyzes your business, website, and YouTube channel to help you create SEO-optimized video ideas, scripts, thumbnails, and even complete videos that actually match your brand. What I like most is that every week, Subscriber gives me a list of high-potential video ideas I can immediately execute, and it can even help edit videos for me, with or without my face, including videos like the one you're watching right now. It's easy to get started, and you can try Subscriber for free using the link in the description below. Now back to the video. The number I keep seeing is 46 engineers surveyed by the Pragmatic Engineer, and business stakeholders came out as heavy users, not just devs. So the assumption that you need to write code to connect anything is worth pressure testing right now. I looked at Anthropic's own docs and the community survey results, and the remote MCP path requires zero technical knowledge. You just connect, and managed platforms like Composio make it even more code-light. The 46 engineer Pragmatic Engineer survey confirmed business stakeholders are heavy users, though that's community reported rather than a controlled study, so take it as directional. Myth busted again. The developer-only label is wrong. Remote MCP is genuinely accessible to non-technical users, kind of like plugging in a USB rather than wiring a circuit board. And that's 2 myths down out of 2 questions so far with the score on screen. Part 3. How does MCP actually enforce security and control what AI can access? The figure that stopped me cold. 43% of tested MCP implementations had command injection vulnerabilities, according to security researchers at Equixly. And if you assumed MCP was handling security for you, that number changes everything about how you should be running it. I went through the Wiz security research and the official spec, and here's what actually came back. MCP standardizes how models discover and call tools, but it leaves authentication, authorization, and transport security entirely to the person building the server. So the protocol enforces nothing at that level. And on top of that, MCP servers centralize credentials, which means one compromised server is one single point of failure. This one's a myth, and an expensive one. MCP is a connection layer. Security is your job and not the protocols. Kind of like a USB standard that tells devices how to talk but doesn't lock the door of the room they're in. And that's 2 myths busted out of 3 questions answered. Part 4. Will MCP solve the context bloat and scaling problems people complain about? The objection I see everywhere is this. Connect a few MCP servers and your AI is burning thousands of tokens before you've typed a single word, because every server dumps its full tool schema into the context window, and that's a real cost that hits your bill and your response quality at the same time. I had to run this twice because the fix is bigger than it looks. A server-side discovery tool can cut context bloat by 91%, which is a real number from the MCP blog, not a projection. And the spec also adds caching and a stateless core, so requests can hit any instance behind a load balancer, though that scaling fix is spec level and not yet universal across all implementations. This one's partly true, the bloat is real, but the 91% fix exists right now if you apply it server-side, kind of like a spam filter that keeps the noise out of your inbox before you even open it. And that's 3 questions answered. 2 myths fully busted, 1 partial. So the score sits at 2.5 out of 4. Alright, so we've cleared the data and security questions, but there are still 2 things you need to know before you actually go set this up. Whether MCP is even worth it over a direct API call, and which servers in that giant 20,000 server directory are safe to trust, because those 2 questions could flip your whole decision on whether to bother with MCP at all. Part 5. What's the difference between MCP servers and direct API integrations? The objection I hear from developers is, why bother with MCP when I can just call the API directly? And honestly, for a single one-off tool, that's a fair point. But the moment you're connecting 5 apps to 10 tools, you're looking at 50 bespoke integrations to build and maintain. And that's where MCP changes the math. Watch what happens when you look at who owns the integration code. With a direct API call, your app owns all of it. But with MCP, the server owns it and your app just calls tools by name. So MCP collapses n times m. Integrations down to n plus m, and local MCP runs at under 1 millisecond latency, because it's just a direct process call with no network hop at all. MCP wins this one on standardization. It doesn't replace your APIs, it standardizes how you discover and call them, like a universal remote that works across every device instead of 1 clicker per TV. And that's 4 questions answered. 3 confirmed true, 1 partial, 2 myths fully busted. Part 6. Which MCP servers are actually worth using versus abandoned noise in directories? The number itself tells the story. Nearly 20,000 servers exist in MCP directories right now. One tester installed and stress tested 100 of them, and only 12 survived, so that's an 88% failure rate before you've written a line of code. And if you pick wrong, you're building on something that disappears next week. I looked at the community testing data and the real usage numbers, and the signal is clear. First-party servers built by the product's own team are the ones that authenticate properly and don't disappear when a contributor loses interest. And Playwright MCP pulls about 5.5 million visitors a week, while Chrome DevTools pulls about 2.5 million. So those aren't demos, they're load-bearing infrastructure, and that's where you want to start. The idea that any server in the directory is safe to use is a myth. Most of those 20,000 are abandoned noise. The 12 of 100 survival rate is the honest benchmark. First party only is the rule, and that's 6 questions answered. 2 myths fully busted, 1 partial, and 3 confirmed true. So here's what MCP actually unlocks for you. Local MCP servers keep your data on your machine with nothing crossing a network boundary. Remote MCP setup needs no code at all, so non-technical users can connect tools today. And MCP standardizes integrations, so you're not writing 50 custom connectors every time you add a new tool to your workflow. And here's where people get it wrong. MCP doesn't handle your security. 43% of tested servers had command injection holes. Any server in the directory isn't automatically fine to use. 88 out of 100 tested servers failed. And context bloat doesn't just go away on its own. You have to apply the server-side discovery fix yourself. Start with one first-party MCP server for a single tool you actually use today. Run it local if your data is sensitive. And treat security as your own job from day one, because MCP is a real connection standard worth using. But the command injection rate in that eQuixley research means it's only as safe as the server you pick. One thing that surprises almost everyone once they actually run MCP. Your tool output becomes part of the prompt sent to that provider, even on a local STDO server. Because the local server keeps data off the network, but the moment the AI client processes the result, that output travels to the model provider. And most people never read that far into the spec. Now that you know how MCP connects AI to your tools, the next question is how Claude actually uses those connections inside a project. And the video that answers that is Claude Projects Explained, which covers exactly how Claude stores context across sessions so your AI isn't starting from scratch every single time. and that's the logical next step from everything we just covered.